Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. In this episode, we're reviewing the opening of Parliament address given by President Ramaphosa. So, this speech was very similar to other speeches that the president has given before, but I think there are some things that we can extract from it which can help us think about this particular moment. So, last week, Cabinet had this strategic session. It was a 2-day session. And we were then told that, listen, after this session, the president at the opening of Parliament will then give a strategic overview of everything that has been resolved upon in this government of this coalition government. Today, what he then said is that there's going to be a medium-term development plan. There's going to be a minimum program that is outlined by this particular cabinet. And he said that another strategic planning session is going to happen, which is going to clarify the goals and objectives and is going to be aligned to the budget. Think about what that means. It means, in effect, that everything that was supposed to be announced has not yet been resolved. It means that this particular cabinet has not yet actually come into a meeting of the minds. That's why another strategic session is required. That's why there is no medium-term development plan which was presented today. And I think that's something that is critical to underline at the get-go. Today was supposed to be the meeting where everything was announced. This seems to indicate to me that there are big issues within this particular coalition government and within this cabinet. And these ideological issues are not going to necessarily be easy to resolve. We've already seen the Minister of Land Reform being challenged by other ministers within the cabinet when he spoke about, expropriation of land and trying to deal with that land injustice factor. There are some tensions which will exist as this cabinet begins to roll out particular objectives. The ANC strategy seems to have been to say to them, look, you guys are coming into our bus. Our bus has already been going a particular direction. That direction is driven by the NDP 2012 document, is driven by our medium-term strategic framework documents. And if you guys are coming on board to be under this president in this coalition government, which is led by us, you have to consistently follow through that. But the Democratic Alliance is going to want to differentiate themselves. They're going to want to find areas where they can, show that they are better than the ANC, because their value proposition to their voters is we can reboot this vehicle of the Democratic Alliance by going into government and showing that we can actually govern and we can do it better than the ANC. The ANC obviously has got an objective to not be beat by the ANC by the DA within this particular coalition in and of itself. So there's some tension there, and I don't want us to lose that as a result of everything else that was said. So in saying everything else that was then said, a lot of this speech was then very similar. If you've read the State of the Nation addresses, I've got them here, all of the ones that he's given, opening of Parliament, etc. And there's a pattern, he'll start off with a historic overview or to set this day in history. Mandela Day, he did the same thing in 2018, spoke about Mandela, spoke about Albertina Sisulu. He'll always find somebody to speak about and to try to then make the speech have gravitas by making that reference. Then he'll speak about the values of those people. Then he'll speak about the values of the country, overcoming adversity, overcoming apartheid. These are similar things that he has spoken about before. And then we go to the 3 priorities: inclusive growth and job creation, reduction of poverty and high cost of living, developing a capable and ethical development state. If I go to the 2018 speech, right, you'll find there at about, let me go to the 2019, because That one I marked it more clearly. 2019 speech, 7 priorities, economic transformation and job creation. Today it was inclusive growth and job creation, education, skills and health, consolidating social wage, building a capable, ethical and development state. Literally, the difference between the 2019 speech and the 2024, I'm going ahead of myself. I'm in the future now. 2025 point there on develop a capable and ethical. There's no difference. It's exactly the same priority. These speeches around, we're going to support small business. We're going to beneficate minerals. We're going to create work opportunities. We're going to expand the public work programs, renewable energy. I could go on. These are remarks that have been made in other State of the Nation addresses that he has given. They are literally the same. So what this tells me is that there was nothing new that he could add. But there's something that I also want to discuss here in terms of the real state of affairs when it comes to unemployment. There's a measure that is used by Statistics South Africa, and that measure is called long-term unemployment. Long-term unemployment measures the number of people who have been unemployed for more than a year. In 2014, there were 3.3 million people, 66% of the unemployed, who were in long-term unemployment. In 2024, in the first quarter, there were 6.2 million people in long-term unemployment, or 75.2% of all of the unemployed. So basically, the number of people in long-term unemployment has gone up, and the percentage of people in long-term unemployment has gone up. And I'm going to put this graphic on here so that you can see that and understand that this is a serious problem that exists, right? Then when you also look at expanded unemployment, right? This is the unemployment number, which includes the job seekers who are discouraged, but still who are unemployed, but discouraged. The unemployment rate is measured at 2 levels. One, you have unemployment, and then you have expanded unemployment, which includes the people who are discouraged. If you look at that number, you look at that graphic, you will see that the number has actually also gone up quite significantly. So when the president speaks about increasing, the number of jobs that have been created, it's not necessarily true. And I spoke before about how, in effect, if you compare 2019 to 2024, the number of jobs that have been added in the last 5 years, quarter to quarter, if you just look at that long-term picture, is 454,000 jobs. But the growth in terms of the labor force is actually 2 million. So the labor force has grown 2.5 million, but the number of jobs added to the economy has not matched that. And that's the reality, right? Now, if you look at the expanded definitions of unemployment by age group, what you will see there is that the unemployment rate in the age group, which is 15 to 24, is 69.6% in 2024. 69.6%. I'm going to put that graphic up here as well so that you can see it, right? And then the expanded definition for unemployment, when you look at the age group of 25 to 34, that unemployment rate is at 48.7%. It has not significantly improved over the last 5 years. These are the realities. These are the numbers. So the president makes it seem in his speech as if, the expanded public work program, the presidential employment scheme have actually been able to create these job opportunities for young people. But the reality is not. Now, has the economy grown? The economy has not grown. In fact, the economy is stuck at 1%, sometimes under 1%. And this has been the case since 2018 when the president came in to office. So let's talk about why this particular economy is not growing and why, even though there's been all of this infrastructure development and IPP programs is because of the neoliberal economic philosophy of President Ramaphosa, as well as this austerity approach that they've taken to the budget. Number one, they have started cutting the budget for various departments, and this does not allow those departments to be able to achieve any growth objectives. If you cut the budget for higher education, for example, that means that there are going to be less students who can access university and be able to become gainfully employed members of society later and taxpayers. That's the mathematics. In fact, many developmental states, even around the world, whether you're looking at France or other places, they when they were still pushing for high growth or post-World War, they made higher education free because if you do that, you have a higher skills base. In fact, higher education is still free in France now and also free in Germany. Why? Because they recognize that you need that in order to be able to achieve the aims and objectives of becoming a manufacturing powerhouse, for example. So this austerity approach does not lead to there being more consumer spending. In fact, it leads to higher consumer spending. The high interest rates also contribute to low consumer spending. They're good for keeping a currency stable. They're not so good for growth. So the president's approach, his Minister of Finance's approach, and even by extension, the Reserve Bank governor's approach has really been hard inflation targeting, high interest rates, stabilize the rand. I like the stabilization of the rand. You can't take chances in Africa with a currency. But having said that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see growth. Austerity is not an approach that leads to growth. The president also has adopted neoliberal economic principles, one of which is the privatization of public goods. We are seeing discussions around the privatization of Eskom. Eskom energy has gone up. The prices have gone up, right? This is part of the proceeds of privatization. We've seen discussions around privatization of water licenses, etc. In all of his other State of the Nation addresses. He's serious about that stuff. It's happening. Pravin Gordhan even tried to privatize SAA and try to sell it for 51 rands. And now all of these state-owned enterprises are directly within the office of the presidency. And we're probably going to see more privatization attempted to be finalized in the next 3 to 4 years, right? What does this mean? What does this neoliberal approach mean? It generally means that you're not going to see high employment. You're not going to see high employment. And what you're going to see, if you see any growth at all, it will be jobless growth. This is why the unemployment rate is so high. This is why even the cost of living is so high, because the fuel prices keep going up. The price of food keeps going up. You have these oligarchs running all of these banks. They are running the supermarket. They're running the malls. It's a few individuals, a few families, which are controlled from a few places, Stellenbosch being one of them. You're not necessarily going to see growth in that situation. So even though the president is trying to put across a rosy picture, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to see much accomplishment in terms of the goals and objectives of reducing poverty, increasing employment under this administration. And I'm really worried that there has been no strategic consensus and document presented by this cabinet. How long will they take? A lot of the problems that we are seeing right now are long-standing. They've been in existence for a while. The strategic planning session was supposed to be the government being able to come back, set the tone, have the president set the tone. So if they are saying that that's going to come later, how much later? That to me is a flashing light there. It's a flashing indicator light, but it's not. It's a red light. It's a red light. That's the nature. Did you listen to the speech? Do you still listen to President Ramaphosa when he gives his addresses? Do you believe him? Do you think that this coalition is going to be able to execute? I have my concerns, and these concerns are being exacerbated now by the way that this discussion happened today. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Let's have a conversation. I'm keen to hear what you think in the comments. Till the next one.